Okay.
Welcome to this week's podcast episode. I've brought on Emeroy Bernardo. Emeroy, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I feel so awkward now.
Well, why?
Because I was like, yeah, let's go. But now I'm like, hey, guys, let's go.
Uh,
All right,
no.
now I'm good.
Yeah, you got this. Give the listeners a little background. Where do you live? What do you do?
I live in Los Angeles, California. I run a social media company called Vision Paradox by day, and by night I'm also a professional dancer. That means b-boying, hip hop, and not stripping. Okay, just to get that clear, because a lot of people think, oh, when they think,
Night
yeah,
dancing.
yeah, night dancing. No, I'm a professional dancer. I tour and perform around the country with a company called Antics, and sometimes solo, depending on the booking, while at the same time still running my company on the go,
So, busy man.
and then balancing that with dad life.
Yeah, and actually, before we started this interview, we were talking about I'm currently reading Robin Sharma's book, 5 a.m. Club, but you start every day at 4 a.m.?
Yeah, my day officially starts at 4. I wake up at 3:30.
Oh, gee, why?
I wake up at 3:30 because I've become aware over the past few years. Like, I say I wake up at 4, but it takes like 15, 20, 30 minutes for my brain to start officially going. So I wake up at 3:30, so my brain is like, I don't want to get up, kind of, and then kind of like get my brain to from like waking up, giving it some time to actually be ready to go. So this morning I had that same thing, 3:30. I wanted to go back to sleep. There's always that temptation every morning. Oh, just go back to sleep. I get up. I do a small morning routine of I drink a full glass of water, and I do some mobility training. So just the movement and the water alone helps just bring the awareness back to my body and not to the bed.
Right. And so why did you choose that time?
I started waking up early in the morning. Funny backstory, just backtracking a little bit, because I used to love, like a lot of people, working at night. And there's the whole conversation, yeah, be the last to leave the office, so to speak. But at the same time, like, it didn't work out for me in terms of how I wanted to be as a dad. I wanted and giving myself proper rest, so one of the reasons I switched to it is because I used to have this inner dialogue of work late, and then and be one of the people, obviously, to sorry, I lost my train of thought there, I'm sorry. To just put more hours in a sense. But the thing is, I started switching that inner dialogue. I used to hate waking up in the morning because, being an art student back in the day, I'd loved working late, but it just didn't work out for the type of lifestyle that I wanted it to be, which is kind of balancing my work life and dad life, and obviously, and as well as dancing. And it just came to the point where I had to change how I approached work. And as much as I was resistant to it at first in waking up, I had switched the inner dialogue of, waking up early sucks, to, the whole early bird gets the worm kind of thing, into working late means you're trying to catch up while everyone is sleeping. And I switched, and then the morning dialogue became more of, I'm waking up early, I'm getting a jump start on the game. And essentially that's how I feel every day. Like once I got the first week of trial and error, of waking up at 5, waking up at 4, and then seeing what I created by 8 a.m. was the addicting feeling to me. Like, the thing I'm addicted to, if that's the proper word to say, is progress. And I love seeing the amount of work I get done. Within, I'd say, not a short amount of time, but ahead of the time, so to speak. Because I could do the work at wake up at 7, do the work then, but then everyone else is waking up at that time. Yeah. I like the idea of being ahead of the game. And then also, one of the other reasons is my son, he's in school, he gets out at 3. And then that's a hard stop right there. I have to stop working, or I choose to stop working at that time because I want to be a present dad. I want to be there. I want to actually hang out with him and not be caught up with work while I'm with him. Okay. And albeit there are things that that do slip in through the cracks, emails here, things that need to be handled immediately. But then that came to time management. If I wake up at 7, I'm only going to have a set amount of hours to work. If I wake up much earlier, I have extra time. And then by 3:00, 3:00 to 9:00, I can hang out with him. That's a good chunk of time. And then actually give myself time for my brain to rest. Because one of the things I've learned in being productive is, hardcore work, but also hardcore rest. So, and that's where one of the reasons I also started switching to the morning, because as much as I was working late at night, I didn't give my brain enough time to actually rest and recover and kind of marinate on the day's learnings and the day's everything. So the gap, the time of actually resting from say 9:00 to 3:30 gives me the adequate amount of sleep I personally need to actually function, because I can work until 1 and wake up at 3, but I don't care. It doesn't matter if I still wake up at 3. If I only have 2 hours of sleep, I'm not going to be able to be effective.
Right. Well, you touched on so many things there, and perspective, that new things are hard, but you got out of your comfort zone, and now how productive you are. You feel good. You've created that work-life balance. And I don't think there's any coincidence that all of the quote high vibing, successful people, they start their morning early, because you get so much done. And I've gotten kind of into this 5:30 routine, which I'm loving. And trust me, when I worked in corporate, I couldn't get out of bed at 7. And now I'm happily awake on my own at 5:30. So yeah, I think it's finding that time that works for you, but the pros far outweigh the cons of quote getting up early.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's because also, when you wake up early, your energy is full. And when you give your energy to something that matters to you first thing in the morning, taking care of yourself, the first thing I work on after my morning routine is I work on personal projects that I know that are going to make me happy before I work on all my client stuff. Yes. So it's, and compared to, by the end of the day, I've already done work for other people, hung out with my son. I'm mentally drained, physically drained, emotionally drained. So it's a little harder to perform at the higher level compared to the morning. So that's kind of my perspective on that, because the energy just feels fulfilling, kind of like the self-care kind of feeling, being a little selfish at first in the morning, and then before going to everywhere else.
Yeah. And on that note, I definitely want to put out, because I found this to be common along women, that they think self-care is selfish. It is not selfish. It's necessary. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't fill up your own cup, you are not available to help others.
100%. Like I'm like that with my son's mom. We're not together, and one of the things I always kept in mind was like, she needs her time. She needs mommy time. So I always, I'm not gonna say always, because that would make it seem like I'm consistent with it, but I aim to give her days where it's just her, to just lounge, to just do whatever she needs to do, because I feel like the me time is so important to self-care, and it's still difficult for her because she feels like there's so much on her plate. If she does nothing, I think it's us. I feel to experience this as well. It's like the idea of doing nothing means not being productive or not contributing, and I think it's such a toxic kind of inner dialogue, and then switching it. And for me, I think the pressure from other people is that you got to keep going even though you're tired. When in reality, it's like, if you allow yourself to take that rest, it might be one step backwards, but it's going to propel you to 3, 4, 5 steps backwards, because you have renewed energy and renewed focus. So.
Well, and what I would love to touch on is something you shared with me previously, this whole importance of finding balance and being present, and how, being a dad is your number one priority. But I loved the story you shared when you two went for a hike. So can you take us back there?
Uh, yeah. Me and my son, we go hiking. I'm not gonna say a lot, but like at least once a month because I view it as a actual like journey together. Like we like if he falls in the water or if he falls on the dirt, I help him get up. It's kind of like a metaphor in life as we're walking through the journey.
Wow.
So and then like I like every time he's walking, like he's fallen so many times. It's like um I tell him get up. It's part like we fall sometime. Like he's cried. And somebody's like, oh I got sorry I live on a main street. Let me let that pass. Okay, so yeah, there are moments where he does cry on the hike because the falls actually hurt, but I hug him, comfort him, and say it's okay. We fall sometimes, but we get up and keep going, and I'm always going to be here to help you out. Sometimes I pick him up, sometimes doing, and then for me, I see it as a metaphor as life. He's young, I don't know how he's going to see it, but hopefully down the line he sees the value of these hikes. Maybe through this podcast, I'll get it. But the thing with me is like me being someone who wants to create progress and always get things done, like the speed of how we do these hikes can be a little bit fast. And one of the hikes we were doing, it was about a 3.5 to 4 mile hike, G6. And then during that hike, and it was a hot day. And then during this hike, he decides to sit down right where the stream is. And I'm like, and then I see other people passing by. I'm like, families just walking by, like 5-10 families passing by. We were chilling for about 40 minutes. And I'm like, Jordan, let's go. Let's finish the hike. But then I just see him sitting there and just looking around the scenery and just kind of taking it in, enjoying it. And then that's where I realized, like, damn, like, this rest is part of the journey. Just because we're not there yet doesn't mean, we're quote unquote failing this process. I don't know. That's how it kind of felt to me. Like if we're not going, we're not completing the hike. Yeah. The whole point of the hike is to enjoy nature, to enjoy the process of the hike, because the whole hike itself is much longer than actually getting to the destination. Because most of the water hikes we go to have waterfalls. We enjoy it for like 5-10 minutes, and then we walk back. And then the whole hike is much longer than that. And then, that's where he indirectly taught me to enjoy every part of the hike, not just the part where I get to help him in where he falls, but he indirectly taught me about patience and enjoying where we are and kind of appreciating it. So that's where we started throwing rocks. We started just enjoying. I just kind of enjoyed everyone just walking by, and that's where I kind of thought, like, just because they're walking by ahead of me doesn't mean that they're better than me. Doesn't mean that they're ahead. That they're on their own journey and this is ours. We're resting. We're enjoying this together. Because either way, we're all going to complete. We're all going to get to the destination and then go back. So just enjoy the moment now. It doesn't matter. We don't have to. There's no rush to get there. So yeah.
I can relate on so many levels, and I tend to get a lot of epiphanies and aha moments like that when I'm in nature, whether it's been hiking or surfing or snowboarding, whatever it may be. But you touched on so many valuable lessons, and I think we get so caught up and we're focused on the destination. So for you, it was to get to the end of the hike, and we don't enjoy the journey every step of the way. And I know what that's like. I'm very competitive, and people passing me, that I would not be okay with that. But instead, you're right. Thank goodness you had your son to bring you back down and be like, Dad, the moment.
Yeah. It was cool. It's just seeing him. Like I really think that he's probably like the coolest person I've ever met. And because there's a level, I know for sure the way I'm parenting him now. I mean, the way me and his mom are co-parenting him now, it's so different compared to how we were both brought up. And it excites me to see how he views the world and the kind of things he will be teaching me as well as I'm going to be teaching him. And that because there's a whole saying of, there's a whole bunch of things that kept coming to mind, like the whole idea of the beginner's cup, having childlike curiosity, the Bible saying being childlike and all that, being like childlike wonder. So it's like, that's why like him seeing the world kind of comes up for me, like the kind of things I tend to overlook or underappreciate. So, and then, yeah.
And for me, we've only talked, this is our second time, but you seem so chill and relaxed and present. And I imagine all these experiences with him have taught you more patience. But in the past, we kind of talk about addressing your triggers because it wasn't always this way for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like it took me, and I still feel like it's an ongoing process of finding balance of, what do you call it, working, like following my passion, and then balancing family life. And I think one of the things that have always been the hugest challenge for me was or can be my anger, because I didn't exactly have the proper role models growing up, and how I was taught to hold my anger was to suppress it. I was reprimanded for it, so and then that led me to being very impatient early on in fatherhood, or in a lot of things actually. And it that's one of the things I knew I had to address. So, and then going through like the early years, yeah, I'd say the early years of my son's childhood, I went through anger management. I went through therapy. I went to parenting classes. I was about to say children's classes, parenting classes, a lot of which gave me a lot of perspective, and a lot of valuable tools to help me start handling my issues. And one of the things that one of my favorite exercises that I got from my therapist was writing down my triggers with my left hand, and then the right hand was me consoling myself as an adult. So
Interesting.
so the left hand was supposed to be like my to be like supposed to be my child self, in
Yeah.
stating the trigger or the emotion at a very, very, very simple uh, sentence. I feel hurt. I feel scared. And then the adult version on the right column, like it's okay to feel scared. Sometimes we have to deal with difficult situations, so on and so forth. So it became more of a very, very powerful coping tool. I think I used it like earlier this year when I was going through some tough personal issues, and then it's still as simple as it is. It like tears me up, because it's like the whole point of it is to activate two different parts of your brain. Yeah, and then and through that's where I realized, like, whatever triggers you is always where the lesson is.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that I was more aware of that, or put that into more practice when I was like sooner, like way before I became a dad, because there were moments where I was triggered and I knew that this is something to look at, but I ignored it. And I ignored it, and I ignored it, and then one of my favorite quotes is from Oprah, where she says, "Some life sometimes comes to you at a whisper, then it comes to one big push," and that's what it led to, and then which led me in jail, and then that's where, when I was reflecting in jail, I was like, I was very aware of, like, I could point the finger at who called the cops, or at the cops itself. But then I realized I had to ask myself, how did I get here? How do I never get here again? And then that's where I started asking myself, like, what were the points in my life that did I not pay attention?
Mm.
And then now, so like, and it's been a long, hard practice, because it's when you're in the moment and the emotions are high, putting it into practice is so hard. And then I know I've gotten a lot better at it, especially like the arguments between me and Jordan's mom back then would be like, it would escalate quickly. But now, when me and her don't see eye to eye, I feel it like rising in my gut, and I feel the pressure in my head. Like, I'm aware of that I'm starting to feel triggered. Then I tell, like, okay, can we talk about this later? I need to take like a timeout.
Yeah.
And it's tough because I want to mouth off and be like, and I want to be right, but it doesn't lead to the proper solution. So I need to take that time out and kind of add it. Like I let myself cool down, take a nap, eat something, because one of my favorite things also that I've learned from anger management was halt. Like never get into a serious conversation when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
Oh, that's powerful.
So and then I when I during that time out, I kind of check in. Am I hungry? All right, eat something. Am I angry? Obviously I'm angry. Am I lonely? No. Am I tired? Maybe I need to take a nap. So oops.
No worries.
So
no, and I think you touched on so many things, and obviously you have become so self-aware. You took 100% responsibility. You stopped pointing the finger, right? And then I feel like your emotional intelligence is now through the roof, but you had to do the work. And you're right. I definitely try to preach this to people that whatever the trigger is, you need to go towards it. Like you said, the lesson is in the trigger. And so many people resist it, run away from it, don't want to deal with it. But that's where the growth is.
Yeah, and it's a very cliche and popular sayings like growth is at the end of your comfort zone. That trigger is the end of the comfort zone, and you have to run towards it because we can't go out of our comfort zone when it's convenient. Life's going to throw us, a lot of curveballs. We like when life gives us the surprises, but when life throws us curveballs, we call those problems. So those surprises we call problems, and then we have to address it. And then recently, like last week, like just open transparency, like my business is going through a rough patch right now, and I honestly felt super triggered and bummed and down. But I knew that if I was gonna get through this, I have to take it head on. But I can't take it head on at that moment. I was feeling down. I was feeling sad. I felt, in the essence is sad. So I took a lot of naps. I took a day off to allow myself to kind of process the emotions, and then let go and focus on what needs to be done next. Because it's so easy. I think it's important to process the emotions, but never to live there. I think some people end up living too long in a certain emotion or a certain state of mind that they make that the reality instead of a temporary place.
For sure. And that's powerful to feel the feelings. Like don't suppress them. Don't ignore them. Feel the feelings. Then you got to let them go.
Yeah. So now developed a strategy or a plan of attack, so to speak, and things are looking up now.
See, but the point is you having the emotional intelligence that you have and the self-awareness and knowing that rather than some people would think, oh, I got to take action and grind and hustle and whatever. No, you had to step back, get into alignment, let things flow. And now that's awesome.
Yeah. Like I honestly felt that immediately in the midst of feeling that sadness or feeling disappointed. I wanted the inner dialogue was like, we gotta handle this now. It's fight or flight mode. Handle it. And I'm like, but I also knew this is what I did before. Excuse me. But this is what I did before, and it was exhausting. And I felt like, let's do the opposite this time. And then kind of took care of myself mentally, and I still did the grinding and the work. But it wasn't from a space of desperation. It was more of a place of, I don't know, empowered possibility. Because my wordings, how I approach things, is the intent is different coming from a desperate place compared to like where I felt rested, felt focused in creating results instead of being desperate for results. The wording, the execution was much different.
Would you say that you surrendered?
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah. And I think that might be woo-woo-y to some people or unknown to them. But I think for me to say surrender is to let go of the need to control, but you just surrender, and it's kind of just the faith and trusting the process and just allowing.
Yeah, trust the process. I've heard that so many times, especially like from like one of the leadership programs I was in. I was like, oh, fucking trust the process. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can curse in here, but like I've
You're
heard it
good.
so many times. But it's like, but you know, it's such an important thing. It's one thing to like hear it, but another thing to practice it,
Mm,
and to like, it's like surrendering and allowing yourself to feel that vulnerability. So,
yeah.
and it's tough because we want, as people, we want to be in control, but sometimes letting go of control creates more results. It's like for me, it's the same thing as like, that step, so like that step backwards to propel you 5 steps forward.
Yeah. I love that. Letting go of control to get what did you say? Process results?
Oh, I have no idea what I just said.
It was amazing. Thank goodness this is recorded.
Okay.
So what I want to ask you then is, what is one key takeaway you want listeners to get from this conversation?
It's kind of a mantra I live by. Who you are in the process is much more important than what you achieve.
Mm.
Because the way I've always seen is like you can be cutthroat, or you can be you can get your result in 2 ways. You can be a cutthroat jerk and lie, cheat, steal to get there, or you can be the type of person who is patient, who gives and builds a community, so to speak, or involves people in your journey. Because you can either have, I think maybe Gary Vee said this, you can either build the tallest building in town by building the tallest building in town, or you can have the tallest building in town by tearing others down.
Mm.
So, because you can be successful, but my favorite saying is, one of my favorite sayings is, people remember how you feel over what you accomplished. I think Maya Angelou said that, and it's like, if you people might remember you that you're successful, but if you're a successful asshole, that's how you're gonna remember you. So, but then if they remember you as successful, that's your personal result, but your legacy is going to be how people remember you, how you made them feel in that process and getting there.
Yes, for sure. Well, you just answered one of my first rapid fire questions. And what I have a couple questions for you to wrap up the interview. So my second question would be, what is a book that you're currently reading or highly recommend?
I'm currently reading the Effective Executive. So it's about being effective versus instead of being efficient. But a book I highly recommend to everyone, it's the first book I recommend, is Four Agreements. That was a life changer, especially in my perspective of anger. Again, point to the other finger, not taking the whole section of not taking things personally. Whoa, that was it. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, that book is one of the staples in my collection. And actually, the first quote personal development I can remember reading, I was 15. And I would agree, out of the Four Agreements, to not take things personally is the one that has always, I've just locked it in. When things are happening or people doing, you don't take it. Yes, that is like more than a motto to live by. Kind of like, I don't know how you say that.
It would be a principle.
Yeah.
A value.
Kind of, yeah. Okay, then another question for you. What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh God. Be humble, because you're not as smart as you think you are.
Mm.
I remember in my 20s, I felt I had this superiority complex. Maybe not. I was trying to flex in front of others, trying to look good in front of others, and kind of feel superior to others, because obviously I think it was just a reflection of low self-esteem. I wanted to, and then, yeah. And then I remember someone calling me out. I was leading a dance team at the time. One of my members saying that, you think you know everything. Like you need to when you don't. It's a very blunt statement. But I'm like, if I had proper self-esteem, I would have brushed it off like nothing. But I took it to heart, and I actually it resonated with me for a week. And then that's where the importance of humility helped out, or one of the lessons of humility came in.
Yeah. Okay, then final question for you. What's next on your bucket list?
Skydiving. I haven't
It's
done it. I know
exhilarating.
it's something I've honestly wanted to do for the longest time. I have a fear of heights, and that's hence I want to do it.
Good for you. I won't scare you, but I was so stoked to do it. And I remember in the plane, I did it in San Diego actually, but I did it looking out in the plane. I was like, oh shit, that's far. And then we weren't even halfway up. I was like, what do you mean we're not? I talked so much shit on the ground. Like, I want to go out backwards and make sure I get my money's worth. And then I was such a chicken shit once we got up there, and thank heavens you're tandem. Cause I don't know if I would have, but it's awesome.
That's intense. Yeah. Like I felt like I that's how I feel like, and I was like, oh, it shouldn't be too bad. But once you're up there, it's like, yeah, like I actually looked up one of these packages from a skydiving company, like 1 day workshop so you can actually do the skydiving on your own.
Yeah. You can get certified. Go
that is
tandem
crazy.
first, maybe.
Yeah. So like, I thought that's just like,
Well, good luck to you. And I acknowledge you for busting outside of your comfort zone.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me here.
Thank you again for joining me.